The Bear Essentials podcast gives older bears a place to gather for real talk regarding topics and issues that they can relate to. Here at The Bear Essentials, we aren't just having conversations. We are looking to provide actionable intelligence through real-life experience and expertise of our guests. Our mission is to build a strong community that elevates and motivates people to go beyond their limiting beliefs by helping them realize that getting older is not an excuse to hibernate on their goals, but a reason to work harder.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Charles Wallace. On today's episode, I speak with best-selling author of the book School of Grit, Brad Ritter. Brad completed SEALFit's infamous Kokoro Camp and now has a website of the same name, schoolofgrit.org. Brad's mission is to help motivate and inspire people and basically to help people become the best versions of themselves. In this episode, we'll find out about Brad's experience at Kokoro Camp, talk a bit about what is School of Grit. Also, when it comes to grit, we'll talk about our inner dialogue and how we need to be able to combat that inner negative dialogue with more positive dialogue. And we also talk about how people are guilty of self-imposed ceilings. So if this is you, please stay tuned. I think you'll find this episode very valuable. Also, last but not least, Brad will share some secrets that he learned from the SEALs regarding emotional resilience and how we can apply those in our personal and professional life. This episode has a lot as far as information, a lot of motivation, and I think you will enjoy it. And I couldn't wait to get to my workout after this episode. Brad's that kind of person. His ability to want people to be better and try to be better is contagious. So without further ado, here's my interview with Brad Ritter. Hi, Brad. Thanks for joining. Really appreciate it. How you doing today?
Hey, Charles. I'm doing great. I get to talk to you at 6:30 in the morning my time, so life's good.
That's awesome. And I love the fact that as we're doing this, you're already up and about and getting your steps in. Can see that. So that's motivation for me after we're done here to get up and get my own workout in. So thanks for that.
You're welcome. I try to find those just little ways that we can hack our daily life, and this definitely helps. Walking and talking.
Nice. So, Brad, can you tell the audience a little about yourself?
Yeah, sure, Charles. So Brad Ritter, Midwestern guy, born and raised. I've, believe it or not, lived in Indiana my whole life. In fact, I've always lived within a 30-mile radius of where I was born. And not necessarily by design, but I never felt the urge to relocate or anything like that. And I've got an awesome family. My wife, Leslie, she's a wife of 17 years, and then 2 kids. So my oldest is Hallie, she's 11. And then my son, Brody, is 8. And I always start off with explaining about family because that's what I'm all about at the end of the day is family, and family being number one to me. So that's who I am, and that's what drives me and motivates me. But outside of that, I'm probably a lot like most people or most of your listeners. You know, I have a day job which I really like. It's a great gig, and then I get to do stuff like this, which is really my passion, and trying to help people out, motivate them, inspire them, that sort of thing. So author as well, recent author. I published my first book in March, which was it took a long time, man, but we finally got there.
You know, it's funny, Brad. I've had a few authors on, and it's some, you know, more than others, right? That's their thing, or they're an author, and they tell me after every book, they say that's the hardest thing, and I don't even know why I did it. It's so hard.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. It was a love-hate relationship, and it took me 5 years. Sometimes I don't like saying that because I'm like, that sounds forever. But you know what? It's different for everybody, and when you're working on something that's really hard or something that takes a long time, it's hard to see the end. But man, I'm so glad I did it. You know, I think that's probably what they all have in common as well. It's like, even though the road was tough, like at the end, you're like, man, I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah, that's pretty much the consensus. They're very happy at the end that they did it, They think about, how hard it was, but definitely glad they did. So speaking of the book, that was obviously, well, let me go back just a little bit. Uh, when I look for people to interview, we talk a lot about mindset, things like that here. So when it comes to mindset, I see this School of Grit. And Brad, I got to be honest, just the title there alone, I'm like, okay, I'm in. Who is this guy? And then I start to look a little more about you, and I can see like things you said about your family man, and just seem like that genuine person. And one of my goals is I want to get people on this podcast that I think make others want to be better. And I think that's kind of who you are. So we'll get into the book a little bit. And I know part of why you wrote the book, and I want to get into this, is you completed the SEALFit's infamous Kokoro Camp. Hope I said that right. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Kokoro Camp is a camp designed by a guy by the name of Mark Devine. So he's a former Navy SEAL commander. And for those who don't know who the Navy SEALs are, they're like tier one when it comes to our military, and their training is just top notch. And part of their training, there's 1 week in particular when they're first starting off. It's called Hell Week, and it's designed to really figure out like who wants to be there, like who's gonna stay like no matter what. And it's designed to test you mentally, physically, emotionally. And the real Hell Week is, I think, almost 6 days. Kokoro Camp's based on that, and civilians can go to it and get trained by Navy SEALs and try to, experience a little bit of that. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't want to be a Navy SEAL. I never did want to, take that contract. But there was just something about figuring out like who I was, like what my character was made of, and I had never pushed myself to that level before. I had never had that much adversity, let's say, thrown at me. And this camp was 50 plus hours, so it was just about 3 days, and man, it pushed me to my limits, broke me several times. And the unique thing about this camp is it's truly transformational, meaning they're not just there to to make you break and watch you quit. They're there to come alongside you, and in those moments where you do want to throw in the towel, they'll give you some words of encouragement, teach you something, maybe show you a different way to do something, because they want to see you succeed. But it is very hard, and most classes have about a 50% failure rate.
So Brad, during that, honestly, how close were you to quitting yourself?
I had two distinct moments, and the first was right away. And I know they hit you hard. They call it breakout. It's designed to simulate chaos. It was crazy. We had everything except machine guns going off by us, basically. And you don't know when it's going to end. That's the other thing. Ours lasted a couple hours, and basically they throw every calisthenic known to man at you while putting buckets of water on your head and screaming at you, and that whole thing. And I had set myself up for failure early in the morning. I was drinking coffee, which I'm doing now, just having breakfast. So coffee dehydrates you, and it was very hot, and we're an hour and a half into this, haven't had a drop of water, and I'm just thinking I'm gonna pass out if I don't get some hydration like pretty soon. And luckily, it didn't last too much longer, and I finally got a little bit of Gatorade in the system. That was the first time when it was like the holy crap, this is real. Like, and I'm an hour and a half in. How am I going to do this for the next, 48 hours? That internal dialogue really starts messing with you. So it hit me right away. So yeah, that was the first time I almost quit. Second time, they're gonna places like this. Everybody has a weakness somewhere, and they're gonna find it. Those cadre are experts at finding it and exploiting it. Mine happens to be the water. I'm not super confident in the water. Yes, I can swim to save my life, but as far as swimming for stroke and things like that, just not super efficient. And I was horrible in the water. I was last place on all the races. And they yanked me out, put me in the goon squad, which you don't want to be in the goon squad. That means you can't keep up with everybody else, so you get extra remediation. But I was so happy to be out of the water. I was like, you can tell me to do as many push-ups, whatever. I'll be more than happy to do these.
So it sounds like it's great segue. So it sounds like right into this next question. So you complete that. Now thoughts are in your head about School of Grit.
Mm-hmm.
What is School of Grit?
Yeah, School of Grit is it's a tribe that people can join. It's membership based, and we basically do life together. So it's open to men, women. Most of the people I have in right now are between the ages of like 30 and 60, and they've all what the common thread I see is that they're all successful by society standards, but they want to take it the next level. They want to go from like successful to significance, and we get to do that together, and we do that through different lessons on whether it's grit, building mental toughness, emotional resiliency, things like that. But I'm such a big proponent of your physical. I call it physical mountain. So just being fit. That is foundational in my coaching and in School of Grit. So we do a lot of workouts together. So I'll lead workouts every Saturday morning over Zoom. We'll do that together, and then we take on different challenges, typically quarterly. Like we did, if you're familiar with Murph, the Hero Wad Murph, we all did that together a couple weekends ago. We've done things like, hey, let's do 1,000 burpees for time, together, and it's so much fun because that's when the tools, that's when the tactics, that's when the lessons actually really come into play live. Because I'm not with them, in the same room with them, but I can see them over video, and we're sweating together, and they're having difficulty breathing and all that, and we coach each other to get them through. And what I find is, the consistency of doing hard things together like that. And it doesn't just have to be physical. I mean, we'll do things like have a crucial conversation with someone. Like oftentimes I'd rather do the hard workout than have that conversation with maybe a family member that I've been putting off forever, and things like that. So it's a really cool tribe. It's a really cool membership, and it's open to anyone really that looking to gain an edge in life.
Probably just 2-3 years ago, what you just described to me, that would have been like, ugh, that really sounds horrible. I want no parts of that. My mindset now, though, as you described it, I'm sitting here in my own mind going, that sounds amazing. Couple things you said there. I did want to go back. You made one comment there that I thought was really, really poignant. I never heard it said that way. You mentioned about going from successful to significant.
Mm-hmm.
Can you touch on that a little more? Because I think a lot of the audience, there's a lot of high level professionals, and to your point, being successful by society standards. But the way you just said that really got me to think a second. So could you maybe elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah. So, part of what we really dig into, other than, the physical, the workouts and stuff, that's just a tool. Really, at the heart of it, we're trying to figure out what I refer to as your 3 Ps. Like, what are you passionate about? What are your principles? What do you stand for? And what's your life's purpose? We've heard that big term before. Like, what's your purpose? What's your purpose? And we do the work to try to figure that out, because it'll come over time. And that's what I mean by being significant, or that's what I think of when I think of a life of significance. And it's different for everybody, but like a simple question would be like, if your life ended tomorrow, what would people remember you for? Or are there things, are there dreams that you keep having, but for whatever reason you haven't taken action on it? Well, guess what? You're going to get accountability in this group, because everybody has a swim buddy, and we have accountability calls, and we just try to motivate each other to go after that and put whatever that is out there into the world. So that's what I mean by being, successful to significant.
Yeah, thanks for that, Brad. That's extremely well stated. And I think that adds a lot more perspective when people are having that, to my next question, that inner dialogue, that hard conversation with themselves. it's definitely something to think about. So I want to talk about that a bit. So when it comes to grit, what about that inner dialogue? Because I think that can be the hardest part for some people.
I think it's the hardest part for everybody, including myself, because even though I'm a huge practitioner in the mental toughness, emotional resiliency space, let's say, doesn't mean I don't have those that dialogue, that negative dialogue. I have it every day, multiple times, and it goes back to a lot of it's science based, just with like what's actually happening in the mind, or that big word metacognition, thinking about your thinking. But I think it's been said, and I don't know what the exact number is, but I know it's a lot. But something like you've got 50,000 thoughts a day, and like half those thoughts are the same ones as yesterday. So if you really think about like, are those thoughts motivating? Are they positively charged or are they negatively charged? That's going to totally affect your actions and your decision making and all that good stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot to it. And one of the tools that we use inside a School of Grit, I didn't come up with this on my own. So, full disclosure, I'm what's called an unbeatable mind certified coach.
Hmm.
So that camp I went through at Kokoro Camp that Mark Devine put on, he has it's about a year-long study, and you can really dig deep and go into what it takes to become unbeatable is what he calls it. So I want to give credit where credit's due. This next tool I'm about to share with you. So it's called the Worm, and it's not WORM, it's WIRM. So, but if you think about this and you practice it enough, it's something you can access on a subconscious level. So, when you start down that fear loop or you start down that negative dialogue, witness it. Say, okay, I'm starting to think negative. That's a big part. Witness what's going on. And then the I is interdict. Interdict just means stop it. So you come up with your own power statement. And it could be just that. Stop. No, not now. Not today. I got this. Easy day. Things like that. So you're going to interdict that thought pattern, and then you're going to redirect it into like its positive correlate and try to put some positive visualization around that and positive limelight, and then you're going to maintain it. And depending on how hard or what kind of adversity is being thrown your way, that could be maintained through things like jingles, mantras, maybe a poem that's special to you, things like that. But these are mental tools that we can employ when those fear loops hit us, because they will. And if we leave them unchecked, man, they're loops. So they just keep going, they keep growing day after day after day.
Yeah, and so that I love that the worm. That's something that I know already. That's something, as you were saying, and I'm going to start to try to incorporate even for myself. Because I think that dialogue a lot of times, as you said, I feel like we have a tendency to let that dialogue really, it hurts us, it hinders us. And do you think, Brad, because of that dialogue and that negative talk, I'll call it, do you think that has a lot of people basically they're guilty of self-imposed ceilings?
Totally. 100%. There's another guy I follow. His name's Pat McNamara. He's awesome dude. He runs defense shooting. He's former Delta Force. Anyway, he has a saying, because I follow his stuff, and his saying is that limits begin where vision ends. And I love that, because a lot of us think too small, myself included, right, with our own goals. Sometimes we just don't think big enough. We don't go big enough because we don't believe we can. And it's like, why not you? Someone before you has likely done it and laid that track on how to do it. It's kind of like I can't remember the guy's name, but whoever ran the 4-minute mile for the first time, like that was thought to be impossible, that your heart would explode. But then once one person did it, I think they had 12 people do it like the following year or something like that, as the story goes. So yeah, 100%. I think your mental dialogue is a lot of times what's keeping you back. And there's also that element of it's the F word to me, that's the scary one. And yeah, I'm not talking about the one you're probably thinking of right now, but fear. I think fear is the ultimate F word. That's really what's going to hinder you. And just having a closer examination as to why you're fearful of certain things, And it could be for good reason if you could likely be thrown into harm's way, let's say. But more often than not, fear is the reason you're in this situation and how you've handled it. It goes all the way back to, as when we were kids. Like, would you raise your hand in class to ask a question, or were you fearful that like one of your classmates were going to say something or think you're dumb or whatever? Did you ask so and so out to the prom, or were you scared to do that? It's like a lot of it's based on fear, and we gotta. Fear is a unique thing because without fear, I don't think you can have courage. So I like to say that those are the most fearful can also have the opportunity to be the most courageous.
That Brad, you're on fire this morning. You're saying things that it's like fantastic, and wow, without fear you can't have courage. That's such a true statement. So when it comes to all that, based on what you did, any secrets that you may be able to share with the audience? And I don't want to give too much away because obviously, and we'll talk about it a little more about your book, but any secrets, from the SEALs that you received regarding, say, emotional resilience and how you can apply them?
Yeah, the one big thing I learned out there, which I had always kind of poo-pooed forever, and I don't know why. It never sat with me, but it finally clicked there. And it's so easy. You're doing it right now, and all your listeners are doing it right now. And that's breathing. It's really being able to control your breath, and that's something we practice a lot at School of Grit now. In fact, every call I have with clients, we start off with some sort of breathing practice, even if it's just a couple minutes, just to get us centered and squared away. And it makes so much sense, but a lot of us we're mouth breathers. We don't even breathe in our nose, and it's just examining the physiological effects of being able to breathe through your nose versus your mouth. It's amazing. James Nestor wrote a book called Breath. It's awesome. Goes super deep into the weeds on this. But what the SEALs taught me out there that I'll never forget is how'd they say it? They said, if you can control your physiology, you can control your psychology. So put yourself into one of those fearful situations, and it doesn't have to be physical. Maybe you're getting ready to deliver a speech, like public speaking. That's something that most people fear. Check on your breath. I guarantee you're not taking full inhales and exhales. They're short. So if you can just, and this goes into probably my number one thing that they taught me out there. As simple as this is, we had a former SEAL. He was a SEAL Team 6 guy. He came to our class right before this weekend kicked off, and there was a bunch of guys there. Some women go through this too, by the way, which is just awesome, and they have a great track record of making it. But unfortunately, my crew is all guys. So he says, guys, you're gonna make it through this weekend if you can do 3 things. Just concentrate on these 3 things, and you're gonna make it through. And I'm thinking, oh, what are these? I'm gonna write these down. These gotta be like so awesome, but they're so simple. He says, first, I want you to breathe. Then I want you to think, and I want you to execute. And he's like, if you can breathe, think, execute, you'll be fine. And I was like, what? But it's so true in the moment, and it applies to everything. Someone asking you a question, your kid's doing whatever, and you're about to fly off the handle, you name it. If you can pause a little bit, breathe, think, and then execute, man, you're probably going to make a better decision versus just flying off the handle and going with the very first thing that pops in our mind, because we just talked about all those thoughts that go through our head, some being negative, some being positive.
It's amazing too. Just as you start to talk about that and breathing, I found myself literally making it a point to breathe through my nose as you were talking through it. And you're right. I think it's something that's it's the basic premise of life, and it's something that we don't consider enough. So one thing when I was looking about your book, School of Grit, your website, which, by the way, people, and the link will be in this podcast, the show notes, but please check out Brad's webpage, School of Grit. I think you'll be happy. One of the things I saw that really jumped out at me was about when it comes to mindset. And you literally, the way you word it, seek purposeful pain and adversity. Can you explain that a little bit? Because I think for some people, they see the word pain and adversity and they want nothing to do with it. And now you're making a point to say, and I talk about this too, about seeking it. So can you
Mm-hmm.
talk about that a little bit?
100%. And it kind of goes with the name, School of Grit. That's one of the reasons I chose School of Grit. Is I think everybody needs to find, and maybe you already have found, your own version of School of Grit, and find something that's going to test you. I'm such a big believer that, and it's not our fault. We'll just say that. But today, in today's society, in my own opinion, and I've heard this from other people, I think it's the most comfortable society you've ever had. And I'm not saying that's a terrible thing, but everything in moderation. You can have too comfortable of a society. I mean, think about it. When I was growing up, I don't know how old you are, Charles, but I'm 42. And when I was growing up, I had maybe 5 TV stations, and if I wanted to watch cartoons, it was Saturday morning. Like that was it. Football was on Monday nights. That was it. And now it's like there's 350 channels. You can watch whatever you want anytime. Now that we're into streaming, you got Amazon, so you can just one click buy something. It shows up in 2 days. Heck, even when I'm out in my neighborhood, no one walks anymore. They're all in these like motorized little scooters and crap like that. My kids don't have one. Yeah, I'm that guy that won't let his kids get one because I'm like, hey, you got 2 legs, go walk somewhere or go ride a bike. That's what I used to do. So anyway, not that I'm trying to be on my soapbox. I'll get off it, but I think we've just gotten too comfortable as a society. So I think we need to get back to enjoying hard work. And yeah, that's the tagline of the book: is seek purposeful adversity to help unlock your potential, because that's where the real growth happens. Is when you go through some situation, some event where you're tested. You got to have that. That's if there is a secret ingredient, maybe it's that. Like, examine yourself when you get tested, because when life's good, when things are going good, it's no big deal, man. You're on autopilot. But as soon as something happens, okay, how do you react? Is it knee jerk? And we're just a product of how we practice. We're practicing day in, day out. Every day is an opportunity to practice how we're gonna deal with adversity. So yeah, I'm just a huge proponent of inviting things into your life that are going to challenge you, but then are also good for you. I'm not saying to go out there and go crush yourself and put yourself deliberately into harm's way. But if it's good for you, and especially if it scares you a little bit, go do it. Because if you give yourself 5 seconds, you're going to talk yourself out of about any idea.
That is so true. I also like to think that, you know, and my son was a wrestler in high school and college, but one of the things we talk about was becoming comfortable within the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're not prepared for the chaos, which is, and when I say chaos, it can be you're trying to get kids out the door to school and things start to go awry, right? That,
Yep.
if you're not ready, like you said, you just need to be able to breathe, think it through, and you'll make better decisions. So, Brad, when it comes to just the chaos to life, you said it, we're all good at life when it's going good. I think we lose control when it starts to unravel a bit, but that's going to happen. So, in your opinion, from what you've learned, what you've experienced, what what do you think it really takes to be able to take control of your life, regardless of the situations or the circumstance?
Yeah, and that's going to be obviously a completely loaded question, because everybody's life is completely different than mine, and some people have just a lot more adversity, let's say, going on than maybe I do, at least today. But you hit on something, and that is, we know it's not a matter of if, but when that's going to be thrust in your face. So I'm a huge proponent, and that's one of our taglines of School of Grit, is that you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. And what I mean by that is, life's not going to be easy, but it will be easier, a little bit easier, because you've got these tools, you've got these tactics that you've been practicing day in, day out. So Immediately what comes to mind when I'm working with people is I try to have people kind of group their day into 6 different areas, and I refer to these as the 6 pillars of peak performance. But it's one of those things that it's measurable. You can kind of check the box to see, yeah, how did I do it? And man, I tell you what, if you do these 6 things, chances are you had a pretty damn good day.
Hmm.
And then it's all about habit stacking. Good days become good weeks, become good months, become good years before you know it. Not saying that, hey, you're going to have a crappy day every now and again. But the 6 things, and these are pretty simple. This is nothing earth shattering or brand new. But to me, it starts with sleep. So getting like adequate sleep, and then getting some sort of movement in the day. Like, I'm walking right now, so this would qualify. But whatever that means for you, yoga, stretching, CrossFit, whatever your jam is. And then nutrition, like really dialing in. We are what we eat. I mean, it really is as simple as that. We know this, and I think it's oftentimes one of the hardest things to do. But 80-20 rule on that, in my opinion, too. Like, have some fun, have that pizza, have that donut, have that beer. I'm not saying not to, but try to be moderate with some of that stuff. So sleep, physical, fitness, nutrition, time in nature. This is a big one that I think is neglected, but just getting outside, purposely getting out, going for a walk with your spouse, taking your kids on a bike ride, whatever, getting outside. And then the last 2 are finding a community of practice. And what I mean by that is like a group that you can tap into, whether that's on Facebook, live meetups, your church group, whatever. A group of like-minded individuals that come together as a group, and you can just bounce stuff off of, right? You can be real, you can be authentic. And then the last one is stress. So like, how do you deal with stress? Because the idea of getting rid of stress in your life is just BS in my life, or BS in my opinion. It's how do you deal with stress, and developing that mental toughness to deal with what life is going to throw your way. So those 6 things right there, I tell you what, if you check the box and you've done pretty good in all those, you've probably had a pretty good day, I would venture to say.
And Brad, you know what I love about what you just said? It's all actionable. I,
Yep.
I I think there's so much out there that the intention is good. They're trying to help people. They're trying to help people. But sometimes I think the things they say, you think about, you go, well, how the hell do I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Everything you just said there is extremely actionable, that someone could listen to this, and if they're not doing it, they could go do every one of those things. So that's great practical advice that people can actually act on, and it will have a positive impact on their life. So, Brad, one thing I wanted to start to close out with here is I saw on your website you talk about the truth about crushing your goals. What's that all about?
The truth about crushing your goals.
Yep.
Yeah, I think what I refer to there is there is no there. And what I mean by that is I refer to this as the arrival fallacy in the book too. And you've likely experienced some sort of this, and so you've got a big goal, you go after it, and you crush it, you do it, you did what you set out to do. Then it's like a couple days go by, there's that void again, there's that what's my new mission, and it's almost depressing is what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's what I'm referring to there. And it's just the idea of constantly wanting more, constantly trying to do more, and not being comfortable just settling for what you did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, yesterday. So it's a pretty simple idea, but try to be 1% better tomorrow than you were today. I mean, it's really as simple as that.
Yeah, it's again, it's practical, and it's actionable. It's pile up those small wins on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, and you will be better for it. So, Brad, I wanted to give you a chance here when it comes to your book, School of Grit. Why why should people grab the book, and what will they get from it?
Yeah, why should you grab the book? Well, you'd be helping me out first. No, no, this is so cool for me to say because I never had the intention of writing a book when I first started off this journey. Let's say there were some thoughts I literally threw onto a piece of paper, and I locked that door in my cabinet in my office for like a year, and then I pulled it out and dusted it off. And the reason I did that was I was going through a legacy exercise that one of my coaches had me doing, and I thought, this would be really cool just as a leave behind for my wife and kids. So that's always been the why behind it, and it still is. But what has come from that is just the outpouring of people, sending me pictures with the book or saying like, hey, this particular chapter really hit me hard. Thank you so much for doing it. And I just think it's written in a way that's easily digestible because I'm not a scholarly individual. You can probably tell that by the way I talk and the words I use. I just don't use very big words. But that's how I write too, and people tell me like, hey, that's super relatable. Like I like that. I like that style. And then I think the big piece within the book is I'll tell you and show you the lesson that the SEALs were teaching me, and then I'll give you an example on like how you can apply that to life, because that's the next big thing is, okay, cool, I've got a lot of books on my bookshelf that I've read, but I haven't implemented anything, and I show you different ways that you can implement this particular lesson in your life, and then I'll give you a challenge along with it, and if you're up for it, if you're up for the challenge.
Yeah, I love it, Brad. I love everything that you're about and what you stand for. And funny, I'll say this: you mentioned about you're not that scholarly. Honestly, being on here with me, a 50-year-old guy who named his podcast because his kids call him Bear, you're definitely scholarly compared to me. So, I love it. I love what you're about. And Brad, one thing I am going to do for people watching, I believe in what I'm saying and the people that I'm getting on this show to try to help motivate and inspire people. So please direct message me with some questions. Check out Brad's site. But I'm going to randomly pick someone, and I am going to get you a copy of School of Grit on me and have it sent to you. So that'll be on the Bear Essentials podcast. You'll get a free copy of School of Grit. It'll be on me. I think it's definitely a worthy endeavor, and people should look to embark on it. Brad, that being said, any other ways that people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, thanks, Charles. I really appreciate that too, man. That's so cool of you to gift a book, because it does have the potential to change someone's life. But just awesome. But yeah, just to get a hold of me, just go to School of Grit. It's .org, not .com. I do not own the .com. I wasn't going to pay the money for it. Maybe one day, but not right now. So it's schoolofgrit.org. But it's got all my social media handles and stuff on there. But if you want to send me an email, I'm super responsive. I answer all my emails. So it's just brad@schoolofgrit.org. It's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Great. Thanks, Brad. And you know what? Just we'll keep it simple for everybody. I'll have the links here that people, along with your email address, so people could easily click and get on over there. Won't have any issues finding you. Brad, the biggest question now: how many steps are you at right now?
This doesn't tell me steps, unfortunately, but my watch tells me I'm at 3,200. Nice. And I'm only walking 1 mile an hour.
Nice. And you know what? You're the fact that you were able to keep that going and have a very intelligent conversation and get some really fantastic points across, that just made my day. And I'm gonna sign off here with you, and I'm gonna get my own workout in. So Brad, thank you. I'm sure we'll be in touch through social media. And remember, everyone, reach out, comments. I'm going to pick someone and gift a book to you guys. I think it'll definitely be something that could impact your life in a positive way. So thanks, everyone.
This has been the Bear Essentials. Thanks for listening. And remember, never hibernate on your goals.